Hello, I'm Ibis, and today we're going to learn C programming language. You're going to see just how fun it is. In this course, we're going to cover two items. First, the common format of the C programming language, and secondly, how to show items on the screen. That's something you commonly do in programs. So let's get started. The standard format for a C program always starts with the include of stdio.h at the very top. You want to make sure you have that pound symbol right before the word include, and then space, the less than symbol, then studio.h, and a greater than symbol. There's lots of extra functionality that you get every time you include it. Just take for granted that it's always got to be there. And as you're writing code, make sure that's the very first line. It's not always the case, but it's a good general practice. So once you have the include at the very top, the very next thing you need is a main function. The main function serves as a starting point for the application. So it will tell you exactly where the application should begin, and as soon as it's executed, it's going to go ahead and run everything that's in main, starting at the first line and working its way down. Main does not have to have any parameters. I'm going to show you later some examples of parameters. This is a simplistic version of main that all it does is it returns an integer and it goes ahead and starts to execute. So the very first thing I have is int space main. So main is the name of the function, like I mentioned. That's just going to run at the beginning. But the fact that it starts with the word int explains that it's going to be returning an integer, that after it finishes, some kind of number is going to come back. This is something that the operating system needs because it's the only way to actually tell the system whether or not it successfully ran or if an error occurred. So we want to make sure that we return some kind of information about success or failure. The way that you represent success or failure in C is with a number. So if everything goes good, everything executed just fine, you're going to return a 0. 0 means how many problems were there? 0, we're good. So returning a 0 means everything went well. If you had an error, you usually want to show some message to the screen and say, this is the description of the error that occurred, and then return a 1 in that case. But regardless, you're either returning a 0 or 1. 0 if all was good, and 1 meaning that something bad happened. So let's look at our main function and see what happens. The very beginning, as we said, has int space main, getting back an int when I call main. So the main function goes ahead and executes it. Everything inside the main function is enclosed with curly braces. So after the word main, you see the empty parentheses. In this case, we have no parameters, so there's empty parentheses, open and close parentheses after main. That's totally allowed. So that won't really allow you to do any kind of command line parameters. And if you don't know what those are yet, don't worry, we'll get to that in just a little bit. So I have my int, which is my return, a space, the word main, and then my parentheses with any information about what is going to be sent in as the program is called. In this case, we're keeping it simple. So we have int, space, main, and an empty parentheses. There's nothing else being sent in. We're just calling main and going right in. Remember, the main function starts with the curly brace and ends with the curly brace at the very bottom. So everything inside of it is the main function. Let's start at the top of the main function and see what we're going to do. So the very first thing that we're doing here in this main function is we're printing out a message. When we print out a message to the screen, there's a few ways to do it, but the most simplistic one, the one I want you to use in this exercise, is the printf. The printf allows you to go ahead and print out messages that the user will see. And it could be any text message that you want. It could be, hello there, I'm so glad to see you, anything you want to write. I encourage you using messages in your program because it does make it interactive and makes it user-friendly. Instructions are always great to use the printf for. So in this example, I print out a simple message. I start off by printf, that's the actual command to print something on the screen. And in parentheses, I have a series of words that's going to print out on the screen, and I make sure that I have double quotes at the beginning and the end. So inside of my quotes, here's my quote beginning, here's my quote ending. I have the message that's going to show on the screen. And the message in this case says, This message was written by the C code. So I'm going to see on the screen an actual line that says this message was written by the C code. Let's look at what's at the very end of the line. After the word code, I have a period which I want to show on the screen as well. But I got one extra thing, this \n. The \n represents, hey, go ahead and hit enter and give me a new line. If you think back to the typewriter days, it's like hitting that little lever that takes you to the next line. It really is a way to keep your lines readable. If you left it out, for example, the command prompt for your actual terminal will show up at the very end of the sentence, which doesn't look quite right. Nothing wrong with it, but it would definitely look better if your message came out and then said new line and then your new cursor appeared on the next line underneath. So I encourage you every time that you use the printf to print out an entire sentence, that you only want to show that sentence to the user, that you print out that sentence and then you do this \n so that you would get a new line at the very end. So let's look once again at what we're printing. This message was written by the C code and new line. So now this message is actually presented to the user and they will see this message on the screen. One extra thing happens before we're all done, and that is this return. And return is actually what's returning something to whoever called it. This was called by your terminal, so I'm returning to my terminal some information. And you don't really see it on the screen or anything. It's something that you could use in more advanced options. But I'm returning back that everything was good. And if you remember from the beginning, good means 0. So I went ahead and said, I'm returning 0, all went well with my program. And I'm done. Now I've gotten to the end curly brace, and I know I'm at the end of my main function. Go ahead and type this at your own work environment and execute it and see if you get the message successfully. Additionally, I created some exercises of other fun phrases that you could present on your screen. I went ahead and listed below a few exercises for you to try out. Make sure you look at the comments, try out the exercises, and go ahead and email me the results. I'll help you out, make sure that any issues are resolved and you can move forward. This is just the beginning of an exciting new journey. So I hope that you'll be able to do the exercises soon and get on to the next video. Thanks, see you next time.